Good morning. I am 3 minutes earlier today. So you know the drill. If you're watching and recording, you can fast forward or stay with us through hellos. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, Mary. Good morning, Mariella. All right. Oops. All right. It is time for us to start. Today we will continue to explore the guideline of Brahmacharya or moderation. First, I'll offer you a passage from Deborah Adele's book called Yamas and Niyamas, and then we will do a short guided reflection around that. So Deborah Adele writes, In yogic thought, there is a moment in time when we reach the perfect limit of what we're engaged in. If we take food, for instance, we gain energy and vitality from the food we're eating up to a certain point. If we continue to eat past that point, however, there is a downward turn into lethargy. If we eat slowly enough and pay attention, we can find this point that sits perfectly on the line of just right. It is this moment of just enough that we need to learn to recognize. Past that point, we begin our descent into excess. And the same process is true for any activity we're engaged in, not only eating. So why do we move past the place of just enough and into excess? Yogic thought tells us it is because our mind begins to connect certain emotional states with certain foods or activities. There is a difference between, say, the body's need to satisfy thirst and the extravagant things the mind does with this simple desire. A desire that could easily be fulfilled with just a glass of water somehow, in our mind's convoluted way, gets hooked up with memories and conditioning tied to emotional satisfaction or emotional disturbance. When a certain emotional attachment is placed with a simple body need for food, sex, workout, we can find ourselves in trouble. And without realizing it, we acquire an addiction-like need for the repetition of the feelings associated with that activity or that thing. As we begin to peel ourselves out of our web of excess, it is important to check in with the body's need to get skilled at separating these body needs from the mind's stories. Sometimes we just need to feel sadness, for example. And when this feeling comes upon us, the mind may trick us into thinking we need to do something. A strong workout, or to have sex, or eat a particular food. Of course, there is absolutely nothing wrong with any of these activities in and of themselves, but it is very important to recognize where the impulse comes from, the true need of the body or the protective mechanism of the mind to distract us from the underlying unpleasant feelings. We're here in this world in part to feel enjoyment and pleasure. If we are in the pleasure and not the addiction, then we're practicing Brahmacharya, moderation. If we're feeding our mental stories and have moved past bodily comfort, we are in this addiction mode and out of harmony with this guideline. Moderation is not about non-enjoyment. It actually is about enjoyment and pleasure in its purest, fullest experience. The questions that we need to answer are you eating the food, or is the food eating you? Are you doing the activity, or is the activity doing you? Can you enjoy pleasure without excess? And in answering these questions, we have to be able to discern between what the body needs in the moment and the story our mind is telling us. We also must be fearless in facing our sadness, grief, and disappointment without needing to soothe them with food, drink, or sex. So let's reflect on that together. Take a comfortable position, and as always, acknowledge all the circumstances of your practice, both internal and external. Inhabit this mindful pause you are taking with all your senses, really tapping into the truth of being you in this moment, right here, right now. As always, allow your breath to be soft and comfortable without effort. And see if you can soften your body from the inside out. Ponder the words of Jensei, a Japanese Buddhist monk, who said, "The point in life is to know what's enough." The point in life is to know what's enough. And now bring to mind something that you overdid recently. Maybe it was eating too much, or working out too much, or just engaged in some busyness too much. Whatever it is, explore what would have actually been enough at the time. And reflect on why you felt the need to move into the extreme of excess. Was it to mask some uncomfortable feeling that you didn't want to feel? If so, can you recognize now what was this feeling? Sadness, anger, grief, anxiety. And can you allow yourself to feel it now in the safety of this practice, in the safety of your soft, comfortable breath? Doing so may help you reframe your brain's attitude towards such uncomfortable feelings, and little by little, you'll give yourself permission to feel them fully whenever they come, without fear of being thrown out of balance, and totally comfortable with the discomfort these feelings create. So I'll give you a couple of minutes in silence to do that. Why did you overdid whatever it was? Were you trying to mask some uncomfortable feeling? What was it? Can you feel it now? I'd like to remind you that the actual emotion takes only 60 to 90 seconds to pass through us if we don't start feeding it with stories and worries, creating this vicious cycle that sometimes lasts for years. So I want to complete our practice today with a poem from Dana Folds that's called Being Present, that speaks directly to that. Breathe, relax, and feel. Take time to slow down the pace of life. Watch the rise and fall of moods, the birth and death of dreams. Feelings and sensations seem so real, and yet they shift like changing clouds and flow with the high tide out to sea again. Allow it all to be. No need to grasp or push away. Present with each moment. The whole of you, body, mind, and soul, opens to receive. And today, I invite you to notice whenever you move past the point of just enough and into the addiction of excess. Once you catch yourself red-handed like this, try to take a mindful pause, soften your breath, and ask yourself, what's that about? What am I not willing to feel right now? Can I give myself permission to feel it? Thank you so much for being here today. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you tomorrow.